Hey everybody, welcome to the Big Llama Show. I'm the Big Llama. This is the first movie review I'm doing that has the lowest rating I've ever given. It's Music Box, Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage. It's a documentary from HBO. And yeah, it's getting the lowest rating that I've ever given for a movie review. Let's check it out.
Yeah, it's SINA. She ruckus. Dead beat, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. You ain't a killer, boy, stop. I hear you yelling stacks on deck.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Big Llama Show. I'm the Big Llama. Like I said, we're going to do a movie review for Music Box, Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage. It's a documentary. It's on HBOMax. It's an HBO original documentary series. And man, I didn't like it. We're going to get right into this right now. But before we do, make sure you like this video, hit subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when we post videos. If you like our shirts, we have a custom design. Hit the link in the description for Wrigley Roo Designs. Get your custom shirts. And let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the movie review for Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage. We're reviewing HBO original Music Box, Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage. It's playing now on HBOMax. It's an HBO original documentary. Its runtime is an hour and 50 minutes. It is rated MA for mature, with lots of violence and nudity. Woodstock 99, a 3-day music festival promoted to echo the unity and countercultural idealisms of the original '69 concert, but instead devolved into riots, looting, and sexual assaults. It's directed by Garrett Price, and it has lots of old MTV VJs and interviews with concert goers. Like I said, this is one of the first movies that's gotten the lowest rating I'm ever going to give on my channel. I am extremely disappointed because HBO generally has excellent documentary films, and I've loved a lot of HBO documentary films. This one chronicles Woodstock 99, a rehash of the '69 Woodstock, and I know they had one in '94, but they said that the '94 one was tame compared to this one. And so, listen, I find documentaries to be fascinating, and when done right and done well, you get into the character. You can see perspectives of sort of different points of view, and you sort of form your own opinion. Those are some of the best documentaries where they tell a great story about a life that's been, is that of uniqueness and substance. Now, this one chronicles Woodstock 99, and honestly, the biggest problem with this documentary, which it could have been great, was there's an overexposure of sexual misconduct. And I'm not downplaying the sexual misconduct. What I'm saying is that if that was the focus of the documentary, there's a better and more appropriate way to present that. You can do that by providing examples, by citing, specific events, by talking about it in a meaningful way. But the way that the filmmakers decided to talk about or tackle the sexual misconduct of this particular concert was by showing sexual misconduct and glorifying it all throughout the documentary. What I'm saying is this. In watching this, I realized that it should have been focused on the music. And the backdrop of what happened with the music is the sexual misconduct, is the mistreating of the women that were there, is the groping and the sexual assaults, the rapes, everything that happened at this festival, this concert. And so to me, there's a better way to present it. What they did was show, and I'm okay if you show what happened because it's there, it's chronicled, it's documented, and that's for people to watch. And sure, you have to show exactly what the examples are. So for example, a lot of it was ladies with their breasts exposed. A lot of it was groping and touching in the mosh pits or in the crowd surfing. That to me is appropriate to show, to sort of give the example of what has happened there. But don't show it throughout the entire documentary and make it the focal point. So, in one breath, you're saying, what happened there was a travesty and everyone should be ashamed. But but you're showing everything all the time. Nudity from beginning to end. showing all of the women who were sexually assaulted, showing all their bits to everybody. And that to me is the wrong way to go about the documentary. It did not add to the documentary. It didn't add value to what I was watching, and it was just very, very disappointing. I have to apologize. I have pretty strong feelings, and again, this is my reaction to watching this movie. Is it was a ridiculous, backwards way of telling this story. It added no value to the sexual assault survivors. Why didn't you have more people telling the story? Why don't you have more of the victims, getting out exactly their thoughts on it? Instead, we have a couple of people describing what happened, but instead of bringing down and instead of calling it like it is, what they do is they glorify the young men that were involved in these, and essentially their excuse is they were doing dumb shit. And to me, that was just inexcusable. And I know that they had a warning before at the beginning, and they are talking about it, but again, this was a glorification of that time and what happened. And even if it was acceptable, even if it was things that were accepted at the time, if you're telling the story now, you have to show how that impacts now. And that's what these people were terrible human beings. They were terrible young men doing dumb things and doing ridiculous things that should be punished, should be completely reprehensible, and they are just playing it off as the youth being angst and people not knowing what to do, and it was just a completely horrendous thing. Yes, having fun and partying at a festival and is acceptable. Sure, there are shenanigans that happen, absolutely. But having young people high and drunk and drinking and doing all kinds of things brings out the worst in people. And what this showed is the worst of it. And I think they were trying to talk about the sexual harassment and sexual assaults that happen at these concerts, and at the same breath sort of talk about or try to figure out why the demographics, the white males and the college age males that were going to this festival, why they were so angry. I don't care why they were angry. I don't care what drove them to these despicable acts. They are despicable people who did these things. Now, not everybody who went obviously partook in this type of behavior, but it just kept giving more excuses, and that's just my opinion. When I watched it, I felt like I was watching someone give an excuse. Now, I've gone on and on about the sexual assault that's covered in this, and that's again a huge part of the documentary. What I enjoyed about the documentary and some of the things I learned was the facade of the '69 Woodstock. That it was plagued with problems, the 1969 Woodstock. But the film, the Woodstock film that was released, it's a 3 or 4 hour, about peace and love, were not necessarily, it was really just a recollection of the mythology of Woodstock, and more about the bands that played and the big names that played, because that's what I remember in terms of I've seen the Woodstock movie and I've seen some of the concert footage. I remember the big names that were there, and if you were anybody in the music industry at the time, you had to be there. But they brought into light, which I thought was great, the problems that plagued that festival. They had people airlifted. They did have some violence there. You had lots and lots of people that were injured or hurt, and they were not prepared for this festival, and it was not all roses. So, but again, that's how people tend to do things, is they remember them a certain way. One of the main things in the documentary, it talks about what might have fueled the rebellion, because at the end of the festival in the '99 version, there were riots and there were burning of stages, and people were hurt. And one of them was that commercialism fueled the youth to rebel. It was a very commercialized, very, MTV. I mean, they had a pay-per-view for it. MTV was a part of it. They had sponsors. They had, distributors that were, put in place. And that was not what Woodstock was about. It was about peace, love, and happiness, and enjoying each other, and coming together for a common cause. And the common cause was to make money in this one. And, I am disappointed that the promoters that, you know, again, the promoters, the good thing though is they did show that they had some press conferences in between each day, and the promoters were getting some flack from the press, but they never took responsibility, either then at the time or even now as they're being interviewed to recollect the story. None whatsoever. They took no responsibility. They blamed it on the acts that were there. I think Limp Bizkit was blamed for starting a riot. You know, that everything was great except for it was really, really hot. They weren't prepared. They didn't have the things in place, and things went wrong. All right. So yes, the lowest I've ever rated a movie in the history of the channel. The documentary gets an F. I rate this F. They only spent 5 minutes of this movie, 5 minutes, even talking about why there were only 3 female lead acts on the concert bill. I mean, this movie, this documentary could have done so much better. But again, and let me cite the reasons why the F rating is given. Number 1, you over-sensationalized the nudity and the sexual assault things that happen there. You have to talk about it. You want to talk about it in a classy way, in a way that gets the point across that this was wrong. But by showing this over and over and over again throughout the movie, you're just taking that and saying, okay, it was wrong, but here you go, take a look at it, because that's what guys want to look at. And so to me, that was horrendous. The 3 female acts never really explored why they didn't have a more diverse, you know, or more women, because at the time there were a lot of artists, a lot of female artists who were putting out lots of great music, and you singled out 3 of them and they played on 3 separate days. So it was done purposely. Actually, what they basically said was they weren't sure why it was that way, according to the documentary. I think Ben Simmons, who I think is the creator of the Music Box, and I think he you know, I think he's the executive producer, should be embarrassed of this installment of Music Box. It's a complete sham and a mockery of true documentaries. And one thing I will say is they did a whole example, and this is the example that I think encompasses this F rating. They showed what it was in the 1990s, 99. About the Girls Gone Wild videos and sort of the Maxim magazines and the sexualization of women, objectification of women, and that's a key point because it was stuff that sold at the time. But they made this video almost the same exact way. They made this documentary without with that same spirit in mind, and that's what I think, you know, they got it wrong. All right, well, that's my movie review. I completely I don't recommend anybody watch this particular documentary. I happened to watch it because I thought it was more about music. I was intrigued about the stories, about the horrors and the atrocities that happened at this festival. But they just did it wrong. It was terrible. So again, I don't recommend it to anybody. All right, if you don't agree with me, or you agree with me, or if you watched the documentary, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe so you get so you become a member of the Llama Nation, and you hit the bell notification so you know when you post videos. All right, thank you so much for joining me on this movie review. I'm the Big Llama. This is the Big Llama Show. Peace out.
Yeah, I tell her, baby, you're the one for me. Never two unless you telling me you feel it too.